I want to tell you about a patient I will never forget. 63 years old, solid man, not a complainer, walked every morning, 30 minutes around his neighborhood, took his blood pressure medication on time, never smoked a day in his life. His last cholesterol panel came back within normal range. His doctor told him everything looks fine. 6 months later, he was dead. Not a heart attack, heart failure. His heart muscle had quietly deteriorated to the point where it simply could not pump blood anymore. His wife told me he had been tired for months. She thought it was stress. He thought it was age. It was neither. What killed him was not genetics. It was not bad luck. It was something he did every single day. Something his doctor never thought to warn him about. Something that millions of people over 50 are doing right now without the slightest idea that it is silently tripling their cholesterol and destroying the muscle of their heart from the inside. And here is what makes this so painful. His death was preventable. Not with surgery. Not with an expensive drug. With information he never received. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what killed him, whether you are doing the same thing yourself, and how to stop before the damage becomes permanent. Most people hear heart failure and picture someone clutching their chest and collapsing on the floor. That is a heart attack, a sudden blockage of an artery that feeds the heart. Heart failure is a completely different disease. It is slow, it is quiet, and it is far more common than most people realize. Your heart is a muscular pump. It contracts roughly 100,000 times every single day. Each contraction pushes blood out to your organs, your brain, your kidneys, your lungs, your muscles. When the muscle fibers of that pump become stiff, inflamed, or thickened, each contraction moves less blood than it should. Not dramatically less, not at first, just a little less. Then a little less again. Over months and years, your organs start getting short-changed. The kidneys slow down. Fluid that should be circulating starts pooling in the legs and the lungs. The person feels tired all the time, short of breath climbing a single flight of stairs, swollen around the ankles by evening. And here is the part that should genuinely concern you. By the time most people receive a heart failure diagnosis, the heart has already lost 40 to 50% of its pumping efficiency. That damage did not happen last week. It accumulated silently, over years, while the person felt mostly fine and their doctor said everything looks good. Heart failure is not a lightning bolt. It is a slow-motion collapse, and in the vast majority of cases, it is driven not by one dramatic event, but by daily habits that quietly wreck the heart muscle from the inside. That is exactly what we need to talk about next. Before I tell you what destroyed that man's heart, you need to understand something about cholesterol that most doctors never take the time to explain. Cholesterol is not a poison. It is a building block. Every single cell membrane in your body needs it. Every hormone your body produces, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, requires cholesterol as a raw material. The protective sheath around your nerves is made from it. Your liver manufactures roughly 80% of the cholesterol in your blood because your body cannot function without it. The problem is never cholesterol itself. The problem is balance. You have two main carriers. LDL, low-density lipoprotein, delivers cholesterol into your tissues and, when there is too much, deposits it into the walls of your arteries. HDL, high-density lipoprotein, does the opposite. It picks up excess cholesterol and carries it back to the liver for disposal. When LDL skyrockets and HDL crashes, cholesterol starts accumulating where it should not be. Inside artery walls, it triggers inflammation, attracts immune cells, and forms the plaques that narrow and stiffen your vessels over time. But here is what almost nobody connects. Chronically elevated LDL does not just clog arteries. It damages the heart muscle directly. It promotes a persistent low-grade inflammation that gradually stiffens the myocardium, the muscular wall of the heart. Over years, that stiffness means the heart can no longer relax properly between beats. It cannot fill with enough blood. It pumps less with every contraction. Doctors call this diastolic dysfunction, and it is the single most common form of heart failure in people over 60. So when I say something triples your cholesterol, I am not just talking about clogged arteries. I am talking about a direct path to the kind of heart failure that killed my patient. Here is where one of the biggest medical deceptions of the last 60 years lives. For decades, you were told that fat was the enemy. Eggs, butter, red meat. Cut the fat, save your heart. Millions of people followed that advice faithfully. They switched to low-fat yogurt, fat-free dressings, margarine, and granola bars. And their cholesterol kept climbing. Their hearts kept failing. Why? Because the real enemy was never fat, it was sugar. When you eat a large amount of refined sugar or processed starch, your blood glucose spikes. Your liver responds immediately. It converts the excess glucose into triglycerides and packages them into particles called VLDL, very low-density lipoproteins. Those VLDLs then convert into LDL in your bloodstream. The more sugar you eat, the more LDL your liver produces. At the same time, high sugar intake suppresses HDL, the carrier that is supposed to clean up that excess cholesterol. And it gets worse. The LDL particles your liver creates under sugar overload are not the ordinary kind. They are smaller, denser, and far more likely to burrow into artery walls and trigger the inflammation we just discussed. Published research shows that people with the highest added sugar intake had roughly 3 times the LDL levels of those who consumed the least. 3 times. And here is the deception. In the 1960s, the sugar industry funded studies that deliberately shifted the blame for heart disease onto dietary fat. That misdirection echoed through medical schools, dietary guidelines, and doctors' offices for generations. It is still echoing today. Let me give you a concrete example. A breakfast of flavored low-fat yogurt, a glass of orange juice, and a granola bar. That sounds healthy. That single meal contains 50 to 60 grams of added sugar, more than your entire recommended daily limit. And millions of people eat exactly that every morning, believing they are protecting their heart. Most people hear cut sugar and picture putting down the cake, skipping dessert, saying no to candy. That is not where the danger lives. The real threat is in the foods that do not taste sweet at all. A single slice of commercial white bread contains 2 to 3 grams of added sugar. Most people eat 4 to 6 slices a day without thinking twice. A half cup of pasta sauce from a jar, the kind you pour over spaghetti on a weeknight, contains 6 to 12 grams of sugar. That is more than a chocolate chip cookie. Salad dressing, ketchup, canned soup, flavored oatmeal, barbecue sauce, those whole wheat crackers you bought because the box said heart healthy, all of them are loaded. And here is the trick that keeps you blind to it. Sugar has over 50 different names on ingredient lists. High fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, dextrose, rice syrup, evaporated cane juice. If you do not know those names, you cannot see what you are eating, and every single one of these hidden sources triggers the exact same response in your liver: more triglycerides, more LDL, more inflammation in the walls of your arteries and the muscle of your heart. This is not about willpower. This is about information. You cannot avoid what you cannot see. Now I want to pause here, because knowing all of this is only useful if you actually do something with it. If this video has you thinking about your cholesterol or your heart, that is exactly the kind of concern you should act on, not sit on. There is a free platform called Care Health that connects you with cardiac screenings, cholesterol monitoring programs, and clinical trials for heart disease in your area. You fill in a short form: date of birth, gender, whether you have children under 18, takes 30 seconds, no cost, no commitment. Care Health matches you with options near you that fit your specific situation. The link is in the description, or scan the QR code on screen right now with your phone camera. 30 seconds could genuinely change the trajectory of your health. Now back to what sugar is doing to your heart, because the cholesterol spike is only the beginning. Cholesterol is not the only weapon sugar uses against your heart. Sugar attacks the heart muscle through at least 3 separate pathways, and none of them require a blocked artery. The first is glycation. When blood sugar stays elevated over time, glucose molecules latch onto proteins throughout your body and form compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGs. Think of it like caramelization, but happening inside your tissues. These AGs accumulate in the collagen fibers of your heart muscle, making them rigid. A stiff heart cannot relax properly between beats. It cannot fill with enough blood. Each contraction pumps less than it should. Over years, that is the slow road to the exact type of heart failure we discussed earlier. The second pathway is chronic insulin surges. Every time your blood sugar spikes, your pancreas fires off insulin to bring it back down. When that happens day after day, year after year, chronically elevated insulin promotes inflammation inside your coronary arteries and stimulates the growth of smooth muscle cells within the vessel walls. Those walls thicken, the openings narrow, blood flow to the heart muscle itself decreases. The third pathway is oxidative stress. Excess sugar generates free radicals, unstable molecules that damage the mitochondria inside your heart muscle cells. Mitochondria are the tiny power plants that produce the energy your heart needs to contract 100,000 times a day. When those power plants are damaged, the heart muscle fatigues. It cannot keep up with demand. It weakens not because of a blockage, but because it is running out of fuel at the cellular level. Sugar does not just raise your cholesterol and wait for a plaque to form. It stiffens the heart, inflames the arteries, and starves the muscle of energy all at the same time. And most people have no idea any of this is happening. This next part surprises almost everyone I explain it to. Certain medications that millions of people over 50 take every single day can amplify the exact sugar-to-cholesterol cascade we just walked through, not because the drugs are bad, because nobody connects them to what is happening with your diet. Start with certain beta blockers, one of the most commonly prescribed classes of blood pressure medication. Some of these drugs can raise your triglycerides and lower your HDL, the protective cholesterol carrier that cleans up excess cholesterol from your arteries. Your blood pressure improves, but your cholesterol balance quietly shifts in the wrong direction. Next, thiazide diuretics, another extremely common blood pressure medication, especially in older adults. These can raise your blood sugar and worsen insulin resistance. Remember the mechanism from earlier? When your body stops responding efficiently to insulin, every gram of sugar you eat generates a bigger glucose spike, a bigger liver response, and more LDL flooding your bloodstream. The diuretic is meant to protect your heart, but it is making the sugar problem worse without anyone connecting the dots. Third, some statin drugs. Statins are highly effective at lowering LDL, and for many people they are genuinely life-saving. But published research has shown that certain statins can slightly increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That means the body becomes even less capable of processing sugar, which feeds the very cascade the statin is trying to counteract. I am not telling you to stop your medications. That would be reckless. I am telling you that if you are on any of these drugs, and you are still consuming hidden sugar every day, those two forces are working against you in ways your doctor may not have explained. This is a conversation to have at your next appointment, armed with what you now understand. Now I want to give you something practical, a checklist, because your heart does not fail silently, it sends warnings. The problem is that most people dismiss every single one of them as just getting older. The first sign is fatigue that does not match what you did. Not ordinary tiredness after a long day, a bone-deep exhaustion after activities that used to feel easy, walking to the mailbox and needing to sit down, carrying groceries and feeling like you ran a mile. When the heart cannot pump enough blood to meet your body's demand, your muscles are the first to feel it. The second sign is shortness of breath when lying flat. You get into bed and suddenly feel like you cannot get a full breath. You need a second pillow, maybe a third. Some people wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air. That happens because when you lie down, fluid that has been pooling in your legs during the day redistributes into your chest. A healthy heart handles that shift. A weakened heart cannot, and your lungs start filling with fluid. The third sign is swelling in the ankles and feet that worsens as the day goes on. By evening, your socks leave deep grooves. Your shoes feel tight. That is fluid. Your heart does not have the power to circulate properly. The fourth sign is a persistent dry cough, especially at night. Not a cold, not allergies, fluid backing up into the lung tissue. The fifth sign is sudden unexplained weight gain over just a few days, not fat, fluid, 2 or 3 pounds overnight that cannot be explained by what you ate. If you recognize 2 or more of these in yourself, that is not aging. That is your heart telling you it is struggling. And it is telling you now, while there is still time to act. Here is something that frustrates me as a clinician. Most people walk out of their doctor's office with a standard cholesterol panel and are told either your numbers look fine or your cholesterol is a little high. That panel measures 4 things: total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. It is a start, but it misses critical information that can mean the difference between catching heart failure early and finding out too late. The first test most doctors do not order is LDL particle number and particle size. Not all LDL is the same. You can have 2 people with identical LDL numbers on a standard panel. One has large, buoyant LDL particles that mostly bounce off artery walls. The other has small, dense LDL particles that burrow into the vessel lining like splinters and trigger the inflammation we discussed earlier. A standard panel does not distinguish between them. The person with small dense LDL is in serious danger, and their report says normal. The second test is fasting insulin, not fasting glucose, which is what most doctors order. This distinction matters enormously. Your blood sugar can remain perfectly normal for years while your insulin levels are already through the roof. That means your pancreas is working overtime to keep sugar under control, and the sugar-to-cholesterol cascade is already running in the background. By the time fasting glucose finally rises, the damage to your vessels and your heart muscle has been accumulating for a decade. Fasting insulin catches the problem years earlier. The third test is hsCRP, high-sensitivity C-reactive protein. This measures systemic inflammation in your body. Elevated hsCRP on its own is a warning. Elevated hsCRP, alongside high LDL, is a combination that dramatically increases your risk of both plaque rupture and direct heart muscle damage. The fourth test is BNP, or NT-proBNP. This is a protein released by the heart muscle when it is under strain. When the heart is struggling to pump, it sends this molecule into the bloodstream like a distress signal. Elevated levels can detect heart failure in its earliest stages, long before you feel short of breath or notice swelling in your legs. Write these 4 names down: LDL particle size, fasting insulin, hsCRP, and BNP. Bring that list to your next appointment and ask your doctor to include them. A doctor who takes the time to run these tests is a doctor who is looking at the full picture. A doctor who dismisses the request is a doctor who is not looking closely enough. I am not going to tell you to follow a strict diet. I am not going to hand you a meal plan with foods you have never heard of. What I am going to give you is a set of simple swaps that reduce the sugar load on your liver and give your heart a genuine chance to recover. Start with breakfast. Replace flavored yogurt, processed cereal, and orange juice with eggs, plain oatmeal topped with a few nuts, or avocado on real whole grain bread. That single swap can eliminate 30 to 40 grams of hidden sugar from the first meal of your day. Your liver does not have to convert that sugar into LDL. The cascade does not fire. Replace jarred pasta sauce with something your grandmother would recognize: olive oil, garlic, crushed tomatoes. That cuts 6 to 12 grams of sugar per serving and removes the processed ingredients your body was never designed to handle. Replace fruit juice entirely with whole fruit. An orange and a glass of orange juice contain roughly the same sugar, but the fiber in the whole fruit slows absorption dramatically. Your blood sugar rises gently instead of spiking, and your liver stays calm. Now, beyond removing the problem, you can actively add foods that protect your heart. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines contain omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation in the artery walls. Olive oil contains polyphenols that protect the endothelium, that inner lining of your blood vessels we discussed earlier. Leafy greens like spinach and arugula provide nitrates that support blood vessel flexibility. Nuts and seeds deliver magnesium, which helps stabilize heart rhythm. Berries, especially blueberries and blackberries, contain anthocyanins that reduce oxidative stress in the heart muscle, the same oxidative damage that destroys mitochondria and fatigues the heart over time. This is not about eating perfectly. It is about consistently giving your liver less sugar to convert and your heart less inflammation to fight. Small changes repeated daily are what actually reverse the trajectory. Food is the foundation, but it is not the entire picture. There are 4 daily habits that directly influence whether your heart strengthens or continues to deteriorate, and none of them require a gym membership or a prescription. The first is walking. 20 to 30 minutes of moderate walking on most days measurably improves your HDL, the protective cholesterol carrier, lowers your triglycerides, and strengthens the heart muscle itself. People forget this. The heart is a muscle. It responds to training exactly like any other muscle in your body. When you walk consistently, the heart becomes more efficient. Each contraction pumps more blood with less effort. The vessel walls become more elastic. Circulation to your legs, your kidneys, your brain improves. You do not need to run. You do not need to sweat through your shirt. A steady walk where you can talk but not sing is the intensity that produces the strongest cardiovascular adaptation over time. The second is sleep. Chronic poor sleep, anything under 6 hours, or fragmented sleep where you wake repeatedly, raises your cortisol levels. Cortisol raises blood sugar. And elevated blood sugar feeds the exact sugar-to-cholesterol cascade we have been discussing for this entire video. You can eat perfectly and still drive your LDL upward simply by not sleeping enough. 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep is not a luxury. It is cardiovascular maintenance. The third is stress. Sustained psychological stress, the kind that does not go away when you leave work, elevates both cortisol and adrenaline. Those hormones raise your blood pressure and your blood sugar simultaneously. Even simple daily practices have documented effects on cardiovascular markers. Slow, deliberate breathing for 5 minutes, a short walk outside without your phone. These sound trivial until you see the data on what chronic unmanaged stress does to artery walls and heart muscle over a decade. The fourth is hydration. Dehydration thickens your blood. Thicker blood requires more force to pump. That places unnecessary strain on a heart that may already be struggling. It also impairs kidney function, which means your body retains more sodium and more fluid. A glass of water first thing in the morning and consistent intake through the day is one of the simplest things you can do to support your circulation. Heart failure is not a single event. It is the accumulated result of thousands of daily choices. What you eat, how you move, how you sleep, how you manage the pressure of your life, and every single one of those choices is within your control. Let me give you exactly what to do, starting tonight, not next week, tonight. 1. Go into your kitchen and pick up 5 items you eat regularly. Turn them around and read the ingredient list. Look for sugar under any of its names. High fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, dextrose, rice syrup, evaporated cane juice. You will be surprised by what you find in foods you trusted. 2. Schedule a blood test with your doctor. When you call, ask specifically for fasting insulin, hsCRP, LDL particle size, and BNP, in addition to the standard cholesterol panel. Bring the list with you. Do not leave that appointment without those tests ordered. 3. Pick one sugary item in your daily routine and replace it this week. The flavored yogurt becomes plain oatmeal with nuts. The orange juice becomes a whole orange. The jarred pasta sauce becomes olive oil and crushed tomatoes. One swap. That is all it takes to start reducing the load on your liver. 4. Walk for 20 minutes tomorrow, not on Monday, not when the weather is better, tomorrow, a steady pace on a flat surface. That is 20 minutes of direct investment in your heart muscle. 5. If you recognize 2 or more of those warning signs from earlier in this video, the unexplained fatigue, the shortness of breath lying flat, the swelling in your ankles, the nighttime cough, do not wait for your next scheduled appointment. Call your doctor's office this week. Everything we covered today is for your understanding and education. Your situation is specific to you, and bringing this knowledge to a real conversation with your doctor is always more useful than trying to manage things on your own. And remember, that free health screening link from Care Health is in the description. 30 seconds to fill in the form, and it connects you with cardiac screenings and heart health programs near you. Take care of yourself.